Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in a couple minutes. We'll give folks about another minute to come on in. All right, welcome everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to have Domingo share the interpretation instructions.
Buenas noches a todos. Antes de comenzar, voy a compartir las instrucciones para acceder a los servicios de interpretación. Voy a hacer esto primero en español y después en inglés. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to share interpretation instructions first in Spanish and then in English. Para las personas que nos acompañan hoy a través de su tableta o iPad o de su teléfono inteligente o smartphone, favor de localizar el menú en forma de 3 puntos que se encuentra en la parte inferior de su pantalla. De ahí pueden seleccionar Language Interpretation o interpretación del lenguaje y enseguida tienen que seleccionar el idioma de su elección. En este caso sería español o Spanish. Para todas las personas que nos acompañan a través de su computadora, pueden, por favor, localizar el símbolo de interpretación en forma de globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hagan clic ahí y después elijan el lenguaje español o Spanish. Ahora voy a dar estas instrucciones en inglés. For all those joining us tonight through their tablet or iPad or through their smartphones, please locate the menu in form of 3 dots on your screen. You can click there, and then from there you can select language interpretation. And then from there, you would select the language of your choice. In this case, it would be English. If you're joining us through your computer, you can locate the icon in form of a globe for interpretation at the bottom of your screen. You click there, and then from there, select English as the language of your choice. Thank you, everybody, and thanks for being here with us tonight.
All right, thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'm going to go ahead and mute folks, if that's okay, just so that make sure we keep the channel clear. Let's see here. All right, letting folks in. Well, welcome everyone. This evening, we have a pretty full agenda. My name is Shalama Budi Lopez with the San Diego Air Pollution Control District. And this conversation or this meeting is with the International Border Community Steering Committee. I'll take some time to just go over the agenda for this evening. We'll first have an opportunity for updates. If folks have any event updates or general updates that they'd like to share, we'll take some time at the beginning of our agenda to do so. Then we're going to transition to a presentation from the Air Pollution Control District. Domingo and our team will be providing an update on the various actions that the Air Pollution Control District has been doing since last time we met last month in regards to monitoring and air filters and a whole host of other actions as well. Also today, we have a presentation provided by IBWC, which is going to be giving an update on infrastructure that from the wastewater treatment plant itself. Then we will have a presentation by SANDAG regarding heavy-duty vehicles, and specifically related to projects that are advancing the community mission reduction program strategies. And then lastly, we will have an opportunity to potentially vote on providing a letter of support for a grant application for one of those projects that SANDAG will be sharing with us today. But before we jump into the agenda this evening, I just wanted to see if there is anyone that has any general updates that they'd like to share. Yes, Cody.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My camera is deciding not to work, but that's okay as long as you can hear me. I work for the Resource Conservation District of Greater San Diego County. We manage the Tijuana River Valley Community Garden as well as Wild Willow Farm and Education Center. And this weekend we're hosting Fall Festival, and I just wanted to share that with you all. It's going to be a joint location event on Saturday between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. It will be both at the farm and the gardens, which are less than a mile away and walkable between both. There will be all kinds of plant and seed swaps, workshops, very family friendly, and it's all free. So I will attach to the chat the places where you can find more information about all the events, and we hope to see you there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Cody. And Lauren and David and I and a few others at the Air District will be there as well. We'll have a table there to share some information in person, but also we have really amazing native seed packets that will be also given away for free to folks there as well. Just want to check if there was any other updates. Lauren, did you have an update to share today, or?
Yeah, I can share just a flyer that we'll be sharing actually at the festival, and I'll throw it in the chat here as well. It's just a link to some more resources that are available about the Tijuana River Valley, the odors in the valley, and links to information about how to stay updated, what APCD is doing about them, San Diego Air Pollution Control District, our website, our landing page, as well as other agencies, and where to learn more about it. So I will throw that in the chat in English and Spanish, and then we'll have printed copies this weekend as well at the Fall Fest. So we hope you guys can all come out and visit and join us there.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, are there any other updates or announcements folks like to share before we get started?
Yeah, I can go ahead. We're at Casa Familiar, we're also diving into our holiday season. So there's a bunch of events that you can check out in our website, and I'm actually gonna put it in the chat. But next week we have the Fall Festival for Casa Familiar as well. So I put the link for all of our events, but we have workshop that's called Construyendo Juntos, where we're going to be talking about transportation in San Isidro. Then we have Wednesday, the Fall Festival. After that, we have a haunted house in our youth center and our Dia de Muertos celebration on November 1st. So yeah, if you want to go into the website and check out the events, we have a bunch lined up.
Awesome. Thanks, Alejandro. All right. Any other announcements before we get started with the presentations today? Okay. All right. So at this time, as I pull up my slide deck here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over. Oh, actually, Margarita, do you have an announcement?
No, gracias. Buenas tardes.
Okay.
Disculpe.
Yeah. No, good to see you. Okay. All right. Can you all see my screen okay? Just want to make sure I pulled up the right screen here.
Yes.
Okay. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Domingo, who will be giving us an update on the different activities that the Air District has been involved in.
Thank you, Shalem. So we have a lot of information to share with you today on a number of topics related to the Tijuana River Valley and the activities that we've been conducting to help address the odor issues from the Tijuana River. So first I'll start with progress that we've made to date on air purifiers. The district has identified 2.7 million in interest earnings accrued from AB617 incentive funding that can be used to purchase air purifiers. We brought this idea to our community steering committees, both this one and our Portside Community Steering Committee in September, and both committees expressed support for using that funding for this purpose. We have also had discussions with CARB, with the California Air Resources Board, on air purifier specifications. And as we work to select and purchase purifiers, we are also working with partners, including the county, to determine how we can distribute them to the community. We are currently coordinating with county staff to learn from and support their initial purifier distribution pilot program, and making available $160,000 in EPA funding to extend that program as well. We're also having discussions with the school districts, cities of San Diego and Imperial Beach, local health clinics, and community-based organizations who have all expressed a willingness to help support efforts to get these purifiers into people's homes. So our shared goal is to find a way to prioritize families with children, those with health conditions, seniors, and those who most need relief. The other important aspect of the program is putting together the education and outreach materials and a communication strategy for this program. We want to make sure people have the information they need to get a purifier, that it works properly, and understand how to use it most effectively to provide some relief from the Tijuana River odors. Next slide, please. So now I'll shift into our monitoring efforts. In order to provide more precise air quality data in the Tijuana River Valley that can inform any needed public health action, SDAPCD is actively working on deploying a network of reference-grade equipment to monitor levels of hydrogen sulfide. To help inform these efforts, we have considered input from the South Coast Air Quality Management District and from a team of researchers from the University of California, San Diego, and from San Diego State University currently conducting air, water quality, and public health research in the Tijuana River. Furthermore, we have sought assistance from the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and the California Air Resources Board, or CARB, to provide resources to set up our hydrogen sulfide monitoring program. The EPA recently awarded an Inflation Reduction Act grant to support other monitoring needs at SDAPCD, and has now provided flexibility to use this grant to support our hydrogen sulfide monitoring network. CARB also provided flexibility in the use of previously awarded funding to shift those funds towards the Tijuana River Valley emergency, and has lent us a hydrogen sulfide reference grade monitor. In addition, the South Coast Air Quality Management District also provided immediate support by conducting one-time mobile air quality sampling, as well as lending us a reference grade monitor. The two monitors we have on loan from CARB and from South Coast have allowed SDAPCD to quickly supplement our monitoring efforts while our order for our own equipment is fulfilled by the manufacturer. We currently have two monitoring locations in operations, one in San Isidro at Fire Station 29, and a second one that became operational last week in the community of Nestor at Berry Elementary School. We are working diligently to bring a third site online in Imperial Beach at the Imperial Beach City Hall/Fire Station. Our goal is to have this monitor up and running by the end of October. Next slide, please. We continue to provide updates to the community on our efforts to address odors from the Tijuana River through our dedicated Tijuana River Valley website, social media, and through other forums such as this steering committee. We are currently developing a public-facing dashboard, as you see on the screen, that provides historical and real-time hydrogen sulfide monitor data. The mock-up that you see on the screen is what the dashboard will look like. And this dashboard will also be available in Spanish, and we will publish it in the coming weeks as we also complete the development of an accompanying alert process in collaboration with partner agencies. I'll share more information on this on the next slide. As this information is published on our website, we will promote it widely with the public, partner agencies and organizations, and the media, so members of the public can become familiar with this resource. Next slide, please. SDAPCD has continued to coordinate with local, state, and federal entities to support our monitoring efforts, develop guidance with public health measures to inform a public alert system, and support information sharing and public outreach. In the past month, we worked very closely with the County Public Health Department, the Department of Environmental Health and Quality, the California Department of Public Health, and the CDC's Agency for Toxic Substance and Disease Registry on the development of a guidance on the thresholds of hydrogen sulfide that would trigger different public health recommendations for the community. This guidance will be available on our website, and together with our monitoring data, will provide a clear picture for members of the community on what to do if they experience hydrogen sulfide odors and if the hydrogen sulfide levels reach certain elevations. I'd like to point out that this guidance will be available in multiple language and also in print form so that we can distribute it to partner agencies and members of the community who might not have access to our website. So I'll spend a little bit of time just going through some of the elements that you see on the screen. And I apologize, we currently are still developing or finalizing this guidance, so we only have the draft available in English. But when we publish it, we will also publish it in Spanish. So the guidance has one column with the different levels of hydrogen sulfide, and they're all color coded. Then a column talking about what the community can expect, both in terms of how they might experience the odors, as well as what they can expect from us as an agency. And then a third column with recommendations for how to address some of the symptoms they might be experiencing. So for the green level, we're looking at really low levels of 0 parts per billion to 4.9 parts per billion. And at this level, most individuals are not expected to experience odors or symptoms. And so we will just continue to monitor hydrogen sulfide levels. And there are no specific recommendations for this level. I like to point out that the sensitivity to odors varies from person to person. So while some people might experience odors, others probably won't. But it's safe to say that at these lower levels, folks in general won't experience odors. Then we go to the yellow level, which is 5 parts per billion to 29.9 parts per billion. In this level, folks, sensitive individuals may experience odors and odor-related symptoms such as headaches, nausea, or respiratory discomfort. And SDAPCD will continue to monitor hydrogen sulfide levels and also share this information publicly. The recommendation for this level is to limit prolonged outdoor activities if you smell odors that are bothersome to you. And again, there's a lot of leeway here, just really tying it to, the individual, if the odors are bothersome to the particular individual, because again, sensitivity may vary from person to person. So everybody will adjust their measures based on how they are affected by the odors. Next slide, please. And so the next level is where we'll find more actions that we will take as an agency to more proactively share with the public that the levels are reaching 30 parts per billion or more, and also more recommendations that the public can take. So at the 30 parts per billion level, most individuals will experience odors, and some may experience odor-related symptoms. Again, sensitivity to odors will vary from person to person. SDAPCD will continue to monitor hydrogen sulfide levels and post them on its website. And we will also post an odor advisory on our website and disseminate messaging through social media, through our email subscription service, and through partner agencies and organizations, including schools and community-based organizations. Some of the recommendations for this level are also limiting outdoor activity if you smell odors that are bothersome to you, trying to prevent odors from coming indoors by keeping doors and windows closed. And then for indoor air quality, use air conditioning if available, or a central portable HVAC system, or indoor air purifiers. Also, as applicable, individuals with asthma, COPD, or other chronic lung conditions should have their rescue medications readily available as a precaution. Again, this doesn't mean that these levels will trigger an asthma attack necessarily, or other symptoms related to these conditions, but it's just good for prevention purposes to make sure that folks have their medications available. Also, always seek medical care if your symptoms from strong odors are persistent, worrisome, or worsening. And then we have a set of recommendations identified for schools in terms of how they can also address the odors for their students. What's important to also note as part of this is that if the levels reach higher levels than 70 parts per billion or above, this will prompt additional multi-agency coordination, including agencies such as public health and local, state, and federal agencies, for the evaluation of the increased levels and to provide appropriate recommendations. I want to highlight that this 70 parts per billion threshold is a very, very conservative level. We don't anticipate that folks will have irreversible health impacts at this level, but we want to make it very conservative so that we have ample time to take any actions if we see the levels increasing after this level. Next slide, please. And then finally, to close my update, I'd like to share that today, the San Diego Pollution Control District sent a letter asking the President of the United States and the Governor of California to reevaluate the Tijuana River Valley crisis as a state of emergency and release funding to address the matter. This letter addresses SDAPCD's actions to address the crisis, notes that local response is not sufficient to solve the underlying cause, documents the community complaints of odor and health impacts that are associated with infrastructure failures and highest ever flows, and emphasizes impacts to infrastructure from natural events and extreme heat events, impacts to odor levels, complaints, and air emissions. So this is one of the actions that we're taking as part of our advocacy efforts to make sure that we are highlighting, we continue to highlight this emergency to state and federal governments, and that we get the support that we need to address this issue. We are collaborating, we continue to collaborate with all of the local agencies that are working on this, and we will continue to provide information to all of you, both through this meeting and through our website and other means. I think this concludes my update for today. So if anybody has any questions or comments, I'm happy to address them.
Thank you, Domingo. Certainly a lot was shared. Domingo talked about air filters, talked about the monitoring and the dashboard, along with kind of the odor advisory, and then just talked about this letter. We do have a question in the chat, Domingo, from Mariano. He asks, will the data be available through the API or hourly data set so the community can build its own tool around this important data?
So the data will be available through our website. Currently, I'm not sure that we have another way that we will be able to push it out. So thank you, Shalom, for pulling that slide up. As you can see, the dashboard will mainly focus on historical data so that folks can see how the levels have been changing and progressing. But then we also have the ability to click on a link within this dashboard that will then produce the report that you see at the bottom of the screen there. And that will give you the real-time hour-by-hour data, so that folks know when they are checking, what the current level is for the time of the day that they're looking at. And then based on that level, also make any implement any recommendations from the guidance that I also share, the color-coded guidance. But what's more important, more than the readings on the chart and on this table, is your level of comfort with the odors. We want to make sure that you're also responding to your own levels of comfort to your own symptoms. And that's why the guidance is very general in terms of, folks taking those steps to protect their health, and also seeking medical attention if they need to, because as I've said before, and we'll continue to reiterate this message, the sensitivity to odors varies widely between individuals.
Thanks, Domingo. We have another comment or question in the chat box from Cody. They say, for the 2.7 million CARB funding, has that been secured or rather identified and needs to be secured and released?
This funding is secure. This is funding that we currently have in our coffers at APCD. So that is not, it's not like an additional grant application that we need to fill. This is funding that we have currently.
See a comment and question from Paula. They say, thank you, Domingo, for this information. Will you publish the letter you all sent regarding the state of emergency on your website or make it accessible? Thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you for that, Paula. We will certainly post that on our Tijuana River Valley website so that folks have that available. And as I transition out of the presentation, I can also drop it on the chat here so that folks on the call can access it.
Great. Want to check in and see if folks have any other questions on what Domingo shared, or just in general in regards to air quality in Tijuana River. Yes, Paula.
Hi, just a quick question. Thanks, Domingo. In terms of the odor reporting tool that you all have, just wanted to let you know that we've started making sure we're advertising that to the community through our own website and through other channels. And just kind of curious about updating that dashboard. I know you guys are doing that weekly. Will you be able to provide some of that data to us as well, like of how the odor complaints are coming in or hopefully not coming in for public accessibility, just because I think it's such a great tool to see when you have those upticks in odor reports and like times of day, et cetera.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. The chart that we currently have on our website is as a more static chart that just looks at the previous week. With this dashboard that you see, which we're hoping to publish next week, this will allow folks to select a period of time to see all the different levels and how how it varies. You see on the lower right corner of the dashboard, you'll see a table with dates and times so that folks can also see hour by hour how that's been changing. And then, again, access to that live data if folks click on the link to get the daily parameter report hour by hour. But if you guys have, if anybody has, requests for data that is more just the longer term data or maybe that we can make it available in a different format, we can definitely work with you to make that available for sure. And same with the complaints. I know that we've shared our complaint data in the past, and so we're happy to continue to share that as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for Domingo? I see one in a comment and question in the chat box from Penelope. She asks, are you able to present data soon on how many hours exceeded these various thresholds for the monitor in San Isidro over the past 6 months?
Thank you. We can take a look at that for in terms of the time period. The monitor in San Isidro started operating, I believe, just this summer, so we won't have 6 months worth of data. Unfortunately, we started operating that monitor right after the highest peak that we experienced this summer. So we won't have those peaks as part of that, but whatever data we have, we can do maybe at a future meeting, we can do a longer term view as to how the different levels have been progressing, at least in the last couple months. we have a little bit more data for San Isidro than for Berry Elementary. For Berry Elementary, we just started last week with our monitor there.
Any other questions? So feel free to come off mute if you have a question as well. We'll also be posting this presentation on the IBCSC meeting webpage as well. It should be posted by tomorrow or Friday. And so feel free to take a look at that as well. And then as soon as that link is available on the website too, we can send an email out with the letter itself if folks are interested. Yeah, all right, thanks, Penelope. All right, so with that, thank you so much, Domingo. As always, every month, we're gonna kind of keep this agenda item on the International Border Community Steering Committee agenda because there are so many things that are actually happening. The work that the Air District staff, along with the California Air Resources Board staff, that we're doing as it relates to this issue. So we'll keep this as a standing item on our agenda and share updates every month with you all as we move forward on these things. As soon as this dashboard is released as well, we do plan on sending an email to everyone on our listserv as well. So expect hopefully an email from us sometime next week with this dashboard information, which you'll be able to on an hourly basis, right, Domingo? Not necessarily like real time, second by second, but on an hourly basis, be able to see hydrogen sulfide levels in the Tijuana River Valley. So excited about that. So at this time, I am actually going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Sally Spinner, who will be doing a presentation on the infrastructure updates that IBWC has been working on. Sally?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today, and really thank all of you for the work that you're doing for your community, both the Air Pollution Control District as well as the Community Steering Committee. I think your advocacy is really what helps to find solutions to some of the air quality problems that have been experienced along the international boundary and along the Tijuana River Valley. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Has everybody seen that yet? Okay, we will go on. So as Shalem said, I'm Sally Spinner. I'm the United States Secretary of the International Boundary and Water Commission, United States and Mexico. We're a commission that's responsible for applying the boundary and water treaties between the two countries. I am based at our San Diego field office. Our headquarters is actually in El Paso, Texas. So I wanted to show you this map so you understand some of the key infrastructure that has been affecting the transboundary flows that we've seen in the Tijuana River. So of course you see the river, it's coming from Mexico, and then it crosses the border into the United States, and then eventually discharges at the Pacific Ocean in Imperial Beach, or just south of the developed part of Imperial Beach. Anyway, we have our international wastewater treatment plant, the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. It treats 25 million gallons per day of wastewater from Tijuana, and it discharges that wastewater through a pipeline 3.5 miles offshore in the Pacific Ocean. There is also 6 miles south of the border what they call the San Antonio de los Buenos treatment plant in Mexico. It really hasn't functioned for a number of years now. So essentially you have a discharge of a river of untreated wastewater into the Pacific Ocean south of the border. And so when you have currents that flow north, they affect and contaminate our beaches in Southern California, all the way up to Coronado sometimes, but certainly in Imperial Beach. We have PB Sila, Planta de Bombeo is where the PB comes from, Pump Station Sila. Sila is the Spanish acronym for the International Boundary and Water Commission, the Comisión Internacional de Límites y Aguas. And the purpose of PB Sila is to pump flows out of the Tijuana River to make sure that we're not getting these transboundary flows. PB Sila has limited capacity. So when that capacity is exceeded, then you have flows in the Tijuana River. Occasionally, it can be subject to operational issues, but that has improved significantly due to a rehabilitation project at PB Sila that was undertaken. We have the international collector, and this conveys wastewater to the International Wastewater Treatment Plant. The wastewater that is coming from the river or exceeds the capacity of the International Wastewater Treatment Plant is supposed to be pumped out here to San Antonio de los Buenos. You see this big X where it says Pipeline 1A. We had a failure in that pipeline in the summer of 2022. And so what that meant was there was reduced capacity to take this water out of the river and send it south to the coast in Mexico. And that's why for the past couple of years, that is one of the main contributing factors to the increased flows that we've seen in the Tijuana River, and then the issues that you're concerned about resulting from flows in the Tijuana River. One of the things that I want to be clear about, because this is a common misperception, is that the International Wastewater Treatment Plant is the source of the flows in the Tijuana River. That is not the case. The flows that reach the International Wastewater Treatment Plant, again, go into a pipeline and are discharged 3.5 miles offshore. The flows that we're seeing in the Tijuana River are originating in Mexico, and they exceed the capacity to divert that water south of the border to the ocean or exceed the capacity of the International Wastewater Treatment Plant. Minute 328 was an agreement of the International Boundary and Water Commission, United States and Mexico, that was signed a little over 2 years ago. And it's an agreement to undertake a series of infrastructure projects in the United States and Mexico to address the challenges that the region is facing along the border related to sanitation. It entered into force in August of 2022. We had a ceremony to mark that at the Tijuana Estuary, and identifies 16 projects in Mexico for implementation and 1 project in the United States, which is expansion of our existing International Wastewater Treatment Plant. It also describes who's responsible for operation and maintenance of the infrastructure, and it also identifies potential future projects, including a river diversion and treatment project, a trash boom, further expansion of the treatment plant, effluent reuse. So instead of discharging treated wastewater, it would be treated to a higher level and reused, as well as improvements to the canyon collectors. Those are the long-term projects. The short-term projects have about $500 million in US and Mexico investment to undertake the projects. One of the things that I'm excited to share with you this evening is we now have a website where you can get updates on all of those projects. This website is updated monthly. There are monthly meetings between the United States and Mexico to discuss the Minute 328 projects. So it provides the location on a map, a project description, and status. This GIS portal is available on our website, which is IBWC.gov. You select research from the pull-down menu, and then you go to the GIS maps, and then you click on the US IBWC GIS portal, and I'm going to walk you through this in a minute, and then select the status of the Statement of Intent and Minute 328 projects. So right now I'm going to stop sharing my presentation, and I'm actually going to share our GIS portal with you. So here we are, and if you scroll down, this is from our GIS portal, you see here on the public section, status of statement of intent and minute 328 projects. So you click on that. This just gives a little bit of background that I've just shared with you. And then it brings up a map and it shows the location of the different projects. Just going to zoom in a little bit for you. And you'll have time to click on all of these if you want to see more information about all of the projects, but I wanted to highlight a couple of them for you. One of them is PBCLA. So that was that pumping station that I showed you that gets the water out of the river. This is complete. And so the other thing that I wanted to let you know was that pipeline that I showed you with the big X on it in a previous slide has been, the pump station there and the pipeline have been repaired. And so we have been able to pump more water out of the river lately. So we've actually been able to see a reduction in the last couple of weeks in the flows in the Tijuana River. And as additional infrastructure projects are completed on both sides of the border, we expect to see continued improvement. So green means the project's completed. So here's a yellow one. What does yellow mean? So this is the international collector. So that was one of those pipelines that I showed you that goes right along the border. It is being rehabilitated. Here's the description of the project. That may be a little bit small on your screen, but I'll just read it to you. Phase 1, construction of a new 60-inch PVC pipe along an alternative alignment through the streets of Tijuana. The purpose of the project is to reduce the risk of approximately 58 million gallons per day of untreated wastewater discharges to the Tijuana River. It is currently under construction. And it tells you who's responsible. CESP is the State Public Utilities Commission there in Tijuana. So that's another one that you can get the status on. Let me go over here to this orange one and click on that. So this is the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. Expansion of the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant from 25 to 45 million gallons per day. So this is going to enable us to treat additional wastewater from Tijuana. And I wanted to let everyone know that about 6 weeks ago, we awarded a design contract for this, and we're actually using something called progressive design build. So we will be able to actually do construction on certain elements while we are also completing the design. So we want to do this to accelerate the project as much as we can. There's another one down here that I wanted to highlight. So new SAB, that is the new San Antonio de los Buenos treatment plant. It is currently well under construction. They're in the final stages of construction. They have some equipment they still need to install. They need to test it, but we do expect this to be operational next year. That will mean that we will have 18 million gallons per day of wastewater receiving treatment from a brand new plant south of the border before that treated wastewater is then discharged offshore. So that will mean a significant improvement when the currents in the ocean are headed towards the United States. We should see a significant improvement in the wastewater. So those are just a few of the projects that I wanted to highlight to you. As you see, there are many little dots on the map, and you can click on them and see what some of the projects are. So I'm going to stop sharing our GIS portal update, and I'm going to go back to the presentation now. But I encourage all of you to take a look at that and learn more about the good projects that are underway. Okay. So I also wanted to let you know some work that's been underway at the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. We've had a lot of operational challenges because of excess flows we've received at the plant. Sediment has been a huge challenge for us that's caused all sorts of operation and maintenance issues for us, including at our primary sedimentation tank. So this is one of the areas of the plant that does primary treatment and removes some of the solids. They were out of operation for quite a period of time. We now have 4 out of 5 primary sedimentation tanks that are operational. With completion of this and with better control and reduction of flows into the plant, we expect to be compliant with our permit for the plant this month. And then you can just see, it's just supposed to look like clear water pretty much, but you had all of this sediment and debris in there that had to be cleared out before we could have effective treatment from the primary sedimentation tanks. We also have completed the repair of the Hollister pump station. We had an outage at that pump station because of excessive sediment in the transboundary flows that caused a lot of problems with the pumps and caused transboundary flows. While this pump station was offline during repairs, we had transboundary flows at the canyons. We continue to experience that because of the high level of sediment in the canyon collectors. I didn't go into detail with that on the map, but we do have the ability where these canyons cross the border to collect the wastewater, pump it back to the treatment plant, and treat it in the United States. But when they get clogged with sediment, we're not able to do that anymore. So this is one of the challenges that we continue to deal with. But the Hollister pump station is back online, and we did complete that repair. We have a lot of challenges associated with sediments. One of the things that we found is there's been a particular spike in sediment, and you can see, I'm not going to go into detail on the total volumes, but you see starting in 2013, you had certain levels, and then they just really, really spiked over the last year or so. And that's the sediment and trash that we had to haul away. Continues to compromise the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant and the canyon collectors. We had, again, a significant increase in 2024, almost 5 times the prior year. Some of this is due to the rainfall that we had this year. There's a lot of construction underway on the Mexican side associated with a highway project and repair of a pipeline over there. And we are not satisfied with what Mexico is doing to control sediment. At this point, they do not have effective sediment controls, and we're being impacted by that. So we continue to push for effective sediment control. What are some of the short-term solutions? We continue to meet through the 2 sections, U.S. and Mexico, of the International Boundary and Water Commission. The United States Consulate in Tijuana is also engaging with Mexican officials south of the border, and we continue to press for infrastructure repairs. We are also doing more frequent maintenance of the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant to try to keep up with some of the impacts that sediment is having. Long-term solutions include construction of a sediment removal system with the plant rehabilitation and expansion project that I mentioned to you. So some of the improvements that are being made at the International Wastewater Treatment Plant. I mentioned that we awarded a contract at the end of August for the plant rehabilitation and expansion. We are trying to accelerate construction through the progressive design build, and we have a plan to double the plant capacity. We already have $400 million that's been appropriated. The estimated cost is $600 million. So we will need an additional $200 million to complete the project, but we certainly have enough to get started and make significant progress on the plant. We also had a groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago for JB1, and JB1 is a valve that controls flows into the International Wastewater Treatment Plant, and its repair will help ensure that we stay compliant with our permit, which regulates the volume of wastewater that we treat at the plant. This project will be completed in spring of 2025. And then we also have a lot of pumps at the plant. I mentioned the Hollister pump station, but within the plant itself, we have a variety of pumps, and repair and replacement of those pumps is underway. We also have improvements in Mexico. I mentioned this pipeline that failed in Mexico, and this is at Smuggler's Gulch, Matadero Canyon in Mexico. And I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen, but this is the area where they had this pump that pipeline that failed, the one that was recently repaired. PB-SELA, as I mentioned, has returned to operation, reducing transboundary flows already. The new treatment plant in Mexico that's under construction, as well as the other Minute 328 projects. The other ones in Mexico consist primarily of pump station repairs and rehabilitation, as well as work on wastewater pipelines in Mexico. So if the pumps are working and the pipelines aren't leaking, then you have a good way to control the wastewater along the border. Another project that I wanted to mention to you, and this was developed through a binational work group through something called Minute 320, which is doing work on a watershed scale in the Tijuana River watershed between the two countries. We're going to be doing monitoring in the Tijuana River Valley. The contract was just awarded, and we'll be sampling water, sediment, and trash in the Tijuana River and the canyons. We'll be testing for bacteria, industrial pollutants, pesticides, metals, etc. We did another study several years ago, and you can look that up on our webpage. We did find that there were impacts from kind of your domestic sewage. There were some limited heavy metals impacts, and then we also saw impacts from a compound that's found in plastic trash, and it leaches into the water. So that was another concern, but we're going to be doing ongoing monitoring in a new study, and we'll get more information. I also wanted to just talk a little bit more about the transboundary flows, because I think one of your major concerns from an air quality standpoint is what's happening in the river itself. We are having weekly commissioner level meetings. Our commissioner is our agency head. She was appointed by President Joe Biden in summer of 2021. Her name is Dr. Maria Elena Giner, and she has been very aggressive about pushing for solutions in the Tijuana River Valley and working with stakeholders to achieve those solutions. We also have satellite aerial photography, and that's being reviewed regularly. We can help learn what some of the sources are of the flows that we're seeing in the river. Once we can have a better understanding of where those sources are, we can help take action to address them. There's also a contract through the Mexican section of the International Boundary and Water Commission to do a more comprehensive investigation of the flows, the sources, and volumes that are arriving in the Tijuana River. Again, with this information, solid data, we'll be able to take more decisive action to reduce the flows in the Tijuana River. We also do regular binational river inspections. We actually go out there, go along the river, and take a look and see what's happening. And then we can also see, based on our observations, any changes that we've seen. Has there been a reduction in flow from a certain drain, or maybe an unexpected increase? Then we can address that. And then we also have regular meetings at the local level to try to address any changing circumstances and take action to address the transboundary flows. So some of the highlights of all the many things that are going on is we expect to be in compliance with our permit this month. Repairs to the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant are underway. The rehabilitation and expansion project is underway with the contract that was awarded at the end of August. We have monitoring that's underway in the Tijuana River Valley to deal with water quality issues. We're also looking at the sources and volumes of flows through a special study that's underway there. And then we also have a blueprint for addressing the transboundary flows. And those are the things that I mentioned to you. The studies, the regular meetings, the satellite photography, the satellite photos, and etc. And then we also have the many Minute 328 projects that are underway. And once they are all completed, they will have a significant and lasting positive impact on the transboundary flows in the Tijuana River. So that concludes my update. Again, thank you for the good work that you're doing. We continue to do our part to address the infrastructure needs for wastewater in the region, and we know that it will have a positive impact on the transboundary flows in the Tijuana River. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Thank you so much, Sally. That was incredibly informative. I think we have our first question in the chat box. I'll read it out loud so that it's translated as well. Penelope says, hi, thank you for this. It's a very helpful update. Is there a link where I could find out the name of the chemical that you report is an indicator of plastic? I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Leaching, right.
Leaching.
And I wish I'd remembered it off the top of my head, and I don't. But the results of that study should be available on our website. And I don't have the link handy. I know we put out a press release about it, I think in 2020. So if you search our 2020 press releases, you should be able to find it. But if you also look under research and studies, it was the Tijuana River water quality study that we did several years ago.
Thank you. Yeah, love to see if there's any other questions for Sally. It was quite a lot. We will have Sally will send us this presentation, and we'll be sure to upload this presentation as well. There's a lot of great resources in there and information. We'll upload that to the IBCSC meeting page as well. But yeah, since we have Sally here, I just want to see if folks have questions. Yeah, Alejandro.
Hi, thank you. It was very informative. Just wondering on the maybe logistics management aspect of it. I understand that, the past 2-ish years, there's been a lot of work towards making sure that the system doesn't fail again. But is there any also like management change for IBWC that we will see just to make sure, that people were kind of held accountable for letting the system decay to this point?
So with the project that we're doing, with the contract that was awarded at the end of August, it is a rehabilitation and expansion. And so one of the things that our commissioner, Dr. Maria Elena Giner, has emphasized is to develop an asset management plan. And so we've hired some staff that are working on that. So the notion being that we have an institutionalized system to make sure that the repairs are made. It's kind of like your car, right? You need an oil change every few thousand miles. You need to change your tires every tens of thousands of miles, right? And to make sure that we have that institutionalized in a way so that we don't run into a situation where the plant has deteriorated and needs significant rehabilitation. That said, you will need to have funding to be able to do the work that is identified in the asset management plan. But one of the things that you find is that when you make your budget requests, if you have a plan and you know that it's justified and soundly based on the maintenance needs, that they are more likely to be funded. We did suffer, from a lack of investment in that plant for a number of years. So I think Dr. Giner has really done a good job of getting us on the right track to prevent these sorts of things from recurring.
Thank you. Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. So is the funding, does it specifically need to come from federal funding, or could there be, I'm just thinking about it from a standpoint of advocacy, I suppose, like who should we be pressuring to make sure that the repairs are made and that the funding is available for the repairs and the expansion, but like also down the line that operational budget is also being covered to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
So we are a federal agency and we receive funding from the federal government, but there has been a recent change. There's some legislation and it's included in our annual appropriations bill, and it's called Contributed Funds Authority. So we now have authority to receive funds from other entities. So it could be, a local or state government. It could be a non-governmental organization or a grant from somewhere or some other entity. We did not have that before, and we have yet, again, this is a very new thing, so we have yet to receive funding under that. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency was actually the entity that secured the bulk of the funding for the rehabilitation and expansion of the plant, but we have a longstanding arrangement with them because they also provided funding when we built the original plant. And so we have the means as well to accept funding from the Environmental Protection Agency if they get the federal appropriation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Are there any other questions for Sally this evening before we transition? Yes, Paula.
Hi, yeah, I put it in the chat. Just kind of curious. Thank you, by the way, for this update. It was great. Do you have any comments about what IBWC would be doing with regards to odor compliance, especially with regards to like when the pump stations are not operating correctly? Do they have plans for how to deal and address with that, the odors coming from the wastewater treatment plant or the lack thereof?
So I understand that that is an issue that our lawyers are working on with lawyers, with your lawyers as well. So I will leave that to them to be able to address those issues through the appropriate legal framework.
Okay, sorry, just to be clear, not my lawyers. I'm not involved with
Okay,
any of that. I'm
sorry.
with San Diego State University.
Okay,
so I'm
okay,
like,
sorry.
not me. Okay,
Yeah.
no problem. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
the San Diego Air Pollution Control District is addressing that from a legal
Okay,
standpoint.
gotcha. Sorry, not, but I just wanted to be clear. It's not mine. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that's our executive director is Paula Forbes. So just kind of the
Oh yeah,
the name
different
there.
Paula. Sorry.
A different Paula. Yeah. Yeah, great question. Any other questions before we transition to the next discussion? And Sally, if you're able to, if it's easy enough, if you could put the link to that GIS infrastructure map, that was just incredibly helpful and something that we certainly want to share out with folks, and something I want to kind of bookmark to kind of, we get those questions quite often as well. Where can I get updates on infrastructure? And so having that updated monthly is really fantastic and a great tool. So if you have that easily accessible, if you could put that in the chat box, and we'll also be sure to, as a follow-up to this discussion today, email it out to folks on our listserv for this meeting as well to let them know. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sally. All right, Sally, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
certainly, you're welcome anytime back when there's any like exciting announcements on your end, or anything that you'd like to, if you're not able to be here, in person or virtually, anything you'd like to share with this group, we'd be happy to pass along the information as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Sally. Take care. And then I see in the chat box, Paula had posted that the SDSU School of Public Health has a new community health survey for residents and workers in South Bay and Imperial Beach communities related to exposures and contamination from sewage and wastewater. Goes on to say you can access the survey and take it online, and then there's the link, and then please share with your community members. We can take it now and sign up over and over again next year. This is not part of the CDC Casper survey happening this week. So thank you for sharing that. We could definitely share that out as well. Paula, if we have some time for our community comment section of our agenda, I'd love you to share a little bit more about that and maybe how it's different or similar to the Casper study, if that's okay, if we have some time towards that public comment period. All right, awesome. Thank you, Paula. So at this time, I'm actually going to be turning it over to Mariela, Zach, and Evan from SANDAG, who will be giving us a presentation regarding heavy-duty vehicles projects that SANDAG is working on, and how it relates to some of the SERP strategies that you all help develop as well. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to them.
Thanks, Shalem. Yeah, we really appreciate the opportunity to be on the agenda today.
I think the intent for this presentation is to kind of provide some project or status updates for a lot of specifically the heavy duty strategies that are included in the SERP. But just to kind of kick it off, I think it's been some time since SANDAG has been able to kind of formally present to this group. But just by way of intro, I'm Zach Hernandez. I'm a mobility and borders planner at SANDAG, and I'm mostly focused on transportation projects that have to do with kind of multimodal improvements around the region, so public transit, bikeability, walkability, that kind of thing. And my colleagues here can introduce themselves. I don't know if Maria, you want to go next.
Sure. Hi, thank you, Zach. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mariela Rodriguez, Senior Regional Planner in the Strategic Partnerships team at SANDAG. I focus mostly on goods movement projects and also border-related projects around the agency. And I just want to also really quickly introduce Evan. He's a new planner in our team, and he's going to present in with us today. So Evan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Evan Funk. I'm a regional planner 1 at SANDAG, also working on goods movement and some other border related projects around SANDAG. But nice to meet everybody, and thanks.
Thanks, Evan. Evan, do you happen to have the slide deck on your desktop? If not, I have it here. I can share as well.
It's up to you. I can present.
Okay.
If you would like.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm working with just one screen, so I'm a little limited.
Okay.
I'll be able to see if there's like chat and not.
1 second. Sorry, it's giving me some trouble here. Does that work?
Looks good. Yeah, I can see it on mine. Yeah, well, thanks again for having us. Like I mentioned briefly, this is kind of intended to be somewhat of a status update on a handful of the projects that either SANDAG and partners have been working on that directly relate to or are reflective of the SERP strategy, specifically the heavy duty strategies. And about a year ago, Mariela and I, Jose at Caltrans, and a handful of other colleagues were able to put together a 20-ish minute video kind of giving a broader kind of panoramic view of what it is that SANDAG and Caltrans and our kind of transportation agencies in the region do to address emissions in the region, and with kind of a special focus on the border region specifically. Since it's been a year, just thought we'd kick this off with a really brief couple slides to give you that context or set the stage a little bit. But if Evan, you want to advance, I can start with that, and I'll try to be brief because the stars of the show today are Mariela and Evan. But just to begin, kind of like refreshing, what do we know about like the dynamic that is indicative of our border region being such a binational region, and so many people, so many vehicles, so many dollars in goods crossing our border every single day. Just in terms of how many people are crossing, we like to describe it as a truly shared, population, a shared workforce, a shared student population, et cetera, families that are constantly crossing the border. And in terms of the individuals, the people who are crossing, so this is not people crossing goods necessarily, but we're looking at, on an annual basis, somewhere between 45 million to 50 million people every single year. That's just northbound, and that's not even reaching, the pre-COVID levels for which it's been climbing back up to that. That's just in the last couple of years, but on a daily basis, including San Ysidro, CBX, and Otay Mesa, specific to the IBC designation, we're looking at over 130,000 people every single day. That's just northbound again. Just to paint a quick picture, though, that would be like the entire population of almost all of Escondido getting up and crossing the border every single day. And if we assume a similar number of people cross north as do south on a given day, we're looking at the border itself processing more people, more trips than LAX. And that's just a really kind of staggering statistic to think about. But we can go to the next slide. And we know it's not just, people crossing on foot as pedestrians, people crossing in their cars, but it's also goods. Otay Mesa is the second busiest port of entry facilitating cargo that's crossing between the US and Mexico. Mexico happens to be our #1 trading partner across the country, California's #1 export market. And just increasingly throughout the years, Mexico has been a much, much bigger and more important piece of the binational economy that kind of stabilizes us here. But all of that through our particular region, that those goods that cross the border happen to be crossing in commercial trucks. And Otay Mesa is really the workhorse for that. We also have Tecate, which is further out and outside of our designation for this steering committee. But just to paint a picture, we're looking at over 3,700 trucks per day crossing just northbound. And what's not shown on the slides is all the wait times, the hours long, miles long queues that are happening, especially south of the border, but also, southbound on the north side of the border itself, and all the emissions that stem from that idling and that crawling towards the port of entry waiting to be processed, et cetera. But we can go to the next slide and just kind of tie things together. Like I said, all of that demand for crossing the border and the limited number of ports of entry, limited kind of infrastructure out there to process all these vehicles leads to obviously emissions. SANDAG and Caltrans and other partners put together some research and published it back in 2021, but it was an effort to kind of quantify not just the economic impacts, the lost jobs, the lost economic output that stems from inefficiency or delay at the ports of entry, but also what are the emissions, what's the air quality impact. And so you're seeing on screen what we estimated back then to be kind of like the daily average, in particular for this slide, the CO2 that stems from all that personal vehicle and commercial vehicle or truck delay. And so pretty high numbers. I mean, we're looking at several metric tons, 535 metric tons of CO2 estimated in the next year, calendar year. But over time, we see kind of a decrease that's mostly stemming from improvements to vehicle technology, some of which we've discussed as a steering committee in different aspects. But in addition, what the study kind of found in terms of a highlight was additional port of entry infrastructure, especially infrastructure for our ports that's innovative and dynamic and can manage the flows of vehicles better, provides a lot of relief. But I just using that to kind of paint a picture, we know there's a lot of people crossing, a lot of vehicles that are causing congestion at the ports of entry. That leads to emissions, that leads to poor air quality, which has public health impacts, et cetera. If we go to the next slide, just in terms of the role of SANDAG in all of this, and just setting context again, but SANDAG as the regional planning agency or metropolitan planning organization, to call out kind of the federal designation, our big responsibility is putting together the long range planning document, or what we call the regional plan. And this is a document that is legally mandated, but also aspirational in nature. And it's basically the region trying to say, here's how our infrastructure needs to grow, the investments we need to make sure that in the next 20, 30, 40 years, we have a region that's economically competitive, that's addressing social equity needs, that is reducing GHG and emissions stemming from mobile sources. But adding to that responsibility of the region, we also are very aware and acknowledge and kind of pay special attention and address the fact that we're a binational region. And for over 20 years, we've had a borders program specifically to collaborate on all the planning work, the research and the strategies, the plans and projects with partners in Mexico and neighboring counties as well, to kind of address cross-border mobility and especially the congestion and inefficiency really that we see at our ports of entry. That said, we do have a kind of a transportation focus, or I guess our requirements and standards that we must meet focus really on transportation. So you'll see at a later date presenting SANDAG coming back to present updates on projects relating to personal travel. So like I said, multimodal sort of improvements, but it's also goods movement. And Mariela and team kind of spearhead that work for the agency.
But I think at this point, kind of provide enough context. I'll pass it to you, Maria, to kind of get into status updates.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. One of the strategies that we are going to be talking about is heavy duty vehicle strategy number 2, which is to support efficiency, reduce wait times, and reduce emissions from heavy duty trucks at port of entries. And you can see in the darker blue square, SANDAG's role is supporting coordination and collaborating with Caltrans, CBP, and CHP to achieve those goals. So I wanted to highlight 3 different initiatives and projects that we are pursuing along those lines. One of them is Otay Mesa East Port of Entry project. And a quick update on the project is that SANDAG and Caltrans has begun the 65% design workshop with the General Service Administration, or GSA, and the U.S. Customs Border Patrol, CBP. And a few weeks ago, we released the Construction Management General Contractor Solicitation, and we are expecting the proposals to come in on September 9th, and we anticipate onboarding a contractor by February of next year and begin construction on the site by fall 2025. Also, Caltrans was approved by the California Transportation Commissions, or the CTC, to allocate some trade corridor enhancement funds towards an early work package, which will continue some site preparation on the project site, namely drainage and striping on SR11. Moving on to the border wait time, I just want to provide a quick background on the project. This is a project that started in 2020, and between 2020 and 2023, we installed 32 readers in the San Diego, Tijuana region. And this is a pilot project for northbound border wait times. The readers are as far back as from the border 5 miles back on Via Rápida Otay. And the status currently is we are getting the project installation has been completed, and we are receiving data from all 32 readers in the region. And that's informing the wait time for passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles calculated by programs, for example, General Ready and Sentry, etc. So we have that disaggregated. So according to the data collected in the last year, travelers crossing the border between Tijuana and San Diego experience peak hour waits between 2 and 3 hours, and for passenger vehicles, and for commercial vehicles between 5 and 6 hours. So we are working on trying to make that data available for everyone by developing a mobile app that will be in the future, when we are ready, available to download it on Apple phones, Android versions, etc., so that everybody can make a more informed decision. And so the next steps is like the data from this pilot project will generate data that would serve as the basis to calculate the northbound wait times that can be used to improve the transportation operations and management of cross-border traffic. And this is going to be informed the dynamic tolling pricing for the future Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. So if we can go to, and the commercial, the commercial vehicle crossing appointment system assessment at Calexico East Land Port of Entry. You might be asking, why am I talking about Calexico East? This is a project that, or a study, a feasibility study that Caltrans led, and we were part of the PDT, the project development team. And if I don't know, Jose, if you want to add anything to this, but the idea is that if the project proves feasible, then it would be implemented across all border crossings in our region. I don't know if Jose Marquez is online.
I'm here. Hi.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
Jose.
Marina.
Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sure.
Good.
Maybe for a future meeting, we can discuss the project in more detail, but the idea is to learn from the experience from the ports of LA and Long Beach. Right now, if you want to access any of the terminals at the Port of LA and Long Beach, you need to have an appointment. So, and this is the LA and Long Beach, they do this to be able to manage the traffic outside of the seaport terminals and reduce congestions in the communities around the seaport terminals. So right now Caltrans developed a feasibility study for a similar system at a commercial land port of entry. We there's no appointment systems anywhere in the U.S. for land ports of entry. So we're still in the preliminary phases. I'm happy that we actually receive funding for the next phase, and I'll be happy to share more information in a future meeting. Thank you, Maria.
Of course, thank you for that. Because I don't want to speak on behalf of Caltrans, so I might be calling you again to chime in. So if we can go to the next slide. So the strategy number 3 for heavy duty vehicles is investment in infrastructure and technology to support the adoption of ZEV heavy duty vehicles and improve efficiency at the border. And again, our role is to support and coordinate collaboration with Caltrans, CBP and CHP. And wanted to highlight kind of building up on the border wait time system. Is kind of like a first step to move towards the regional border management system, which is more inclusive or different technologies. And this project currently is working through the systems requirement and is a partnership between SANDAG, Caltrans, the City of San Diego, City of National City, and Chula Vista, as well as MTS and the Port of San Diego and private sector partners to improve cross-border activities. So the focus is to advance the implementation of advanced technology along the border between the US and Mexico, and to promote safety and efficiency through several pilot projects. And that's gonna build up once again on the implementation of managing the border as a cohesive system. And Otay Mesa East Port of Entry is one of those state-of-the-art border crossings that we are trying to get built in the near future. The other one is the charging and fueling infrastructure request for information for the Tri-State Zero emissions vehicle. That was an application. So the state, the California Energy Commission, in partnership with the California Department of Transportation, the Oregon Department of Transportation, and the Washington State Department of Transportation, released a request for information to support medium-duty and heavy-duty corridor projects under the CFI program, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Transportation Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant. And they requested a bunch of information, and we noticed that there were several gaps and issues with the assumptions that they were making. And we provided comments and encouraged critical freight corridors, including those along the border, to be included as part of the potential corridors for implementation of this grant. So thankfully they listened and they were able to include those corridors within the application. And lastly, Bill Zero Emission truck and charging infrastructure. So we, once again, we were part of the project development team for the zero emission infrastructure feasibility study that Caltrans has been leading. They finished with the feasibility study for that, and they are moving now into the project initiation document. And Jose, if you want to chime in, sorry to put you on the spot, but this is your guys' project. We collaborated by providing information, data, and putting our brains to work to collaborate with Caltrans. So Jose, if you want to say something about it.
Sure. And also we can provide more details in a future meeting on this effort. We recently, and back in June, we wrap up a very high level feasibility study to identify potential sites for charging infrastructure for for commercial vehicles in District 11. So District 11, Caltrans District 11 includes San Diego County and Imperial County. We study over 90 sites. Also, I'm happy to say that we're going to be further and refining our some of these sites. It's not like we're going to be developing, of course, 90 sites, but we want to identify some network of sites throughout San Diego and Imperial County. And in the next phase, we are hoping to reach out to this committee so we can get your feedback on some of the sites that we think that have hello? Was that a question? So we're going to be reaching out to committees like this to see if to get your feedback on some of the sites that we might think that could be developed as charging stations. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And I think with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Evan, who's gonna cover the rest of the slides.
Yeah, thanks. So we keep going with strategy 4. In terms of directing funding to the national border communities for the purpose of advancing infrastructure, technology, and heavy-duty vehicles, our role is basically exploring and identifying funding opportunities to subsidize heavy-duty zero-emission vehicle infrastructure. I guess the first thing we put was our work with coordinating to implement managed lanes. I have that under toll discounts, but it's more a broader initiative to achieve board adoption for like a comprehensive toll policy for managed lanes so that they're consistent and effective now especially with Otay Mesa East. We're definitely initiating educational efforts about alternatives for toll operations and policy, and that's going to be one of the critical funding sources for the border region. In terms of, we've kind of already spoken about the parking feasibility study and how we're going to be participating in the upcoming project initiation documentation. But I guess just leaving this slide, it's pretty quick. We're in the process of pursuing many different funding opportunities, but one of the main ones right now is we're applying for the Trade Corridor Enhancement Program, and we're hoping to use it to fund and advance the implementation of all of these different advanced, technology solutions, especially at Otay Mesa East. Technology is one of the integral parts of OME and kind of this new border system we're trying to advance. So that will be kind of the subject of the letters of support topic that we'll be talking about later. And I'll keep going. In terms of strategy 6, which is researching actions to reduce emissions from heavy-duty vehicles and improving health outcomes for the international border community, our role is just supporting with research information. We have done a lot of research, and we are continuing to do research on public-private partnerships That's definitely P3s, as they're called. That's definitely something we're SANDAG's very interested in, and especially for parking and charging. A very large percentage of parking and charging, or parking is privately owned, and working with the private sector is going to be a huge part of finding the solutions going forward. In terms of the warehouse working group, so for the past year, SANDAG has been participating in APCD's warehouse working group, which is their monthly forum to discuss potential rulemaking policies and incentives. SANDAG provided data from our regional travel model and assistance with understanding where truck trips start and end in the San Diego region. APCD is using this data currently to estimate baseline emissions from truck trips to and from warehouses while they consider making new rules. We also use research from our sustainable freight implementation strategy to respond to a request from the APCD regarding potential freight demand management strategies, initiatives that could better manage freight trips and reduce emissions, things like that. And we presented this to APCD's Planning and Policy Committee a while back. And finally, going back again to the District 11 charging assessment, we provided some research on that as well, including background on the geography, freight corridors, land use, things like that. SANDAG really just has a large body of data, statistics, demographics, land use, and we try to help our partners as much as they can when we're doing studies and projects. We really have that's kind of one of the big responsibilities of SANDAG. So that's about it. Are there any questions? Thanks for listening to all that.
Thank you, SANDAG team. Alejandro.
Yeah, thank you. This was a great presentation with lots of different strategies. I was wondering, I think I've mentioned this in the past, but now that you're talking about specifically like the appointment for the border crossing, is there any in the long or short vision of the port of entry, is there any attempt to at least like study the feasibility of it becoming more of like a port scenario where like the containers themselves could be processed independently from the trucks, so they wouldn't have to be idling or on like the zero emission vehicles or whatever? But is there any attempt at least studying the feasibility of that?
I think I'll take that one. Jose, do you want to go for it?
You can go first and then I can go second.
Okay. Thank you, Alejandro, for your question. So one thing that I would say is, and Jose, you might know more about this, about autonomous vehicles, and I don't know if you're ready to talk about that, but so that's definitely, an opportunity that we would be looking at, and that might be one of the pilot projects that we might look into with the grant opportunity that we are trying to pursue for Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. I'm not saying that's one of them, but that's one that we could evaluate, the feasibility and whether or not it could be implemented.
Also, so California is going to be partnering with the state of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, and the Federal Highways Administration. We're going to be conducting also a study on zero emission autonomous vehicles at the U.S.-Mexico border. So the study is a huge study. Hopefully, we're going to start that study early next year. So it's from the Pacific all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. We're really excited about the study. There's going to be a lot of coordination because it's not just the San Diego Tijuana region. It's pretty much all. It will include all commercial land ports of entry, and we're going to be looking at new technologies. How do we improve, and also support the transition to zero emission technologies and at the U.S.-Mexico border. So that's another effort that we're going to be starting pretty soon.
Thank you
Jose.
for those answers. And yeah, everything seems really exciting. Strategies, and it's good to know that there's a whole forward vision thinking on the times. But even I was just thinking maybe a big barrier built it have to be like that. Super techy on that end, but like I'm thinking that there's already something that we could implement. I don't know if it's cutting out.
I think you're cutting out a little bit, Alejandro.
Probably cut out.
If you want to maybe give that question or comment another try. If
Can you
Alejandro,
hear me better now?
No. Oh, maybe you can write it.
yeah, if you maybe want to put that in the chat. Let's see, I'm not sure if he's here. Yeah, we couldn't quite make out that question. Want to see if there's any other questions or comments about the presentation. They're gonna focus in a little bit more on one of the points here because as it relates to kind of the letter of support. But before we transition to that, are there any other questions or comments? And I just want to extend my thanks to the SANDAG team. They've been working on this for a couple of months now, just trying to really distill what's the current status of these projects as they relate to the SERP itself, and to provide that project update. We hope to have not only from SANDAG but from our partnering agencies like Caltrans and others, the city of San Diego as well, to have frequent updates on the status of SERP items that they have some role in. Like many of the SERP strategies, it's not just one agency or entity that has a role. Many of these strategies require multiple partnerships in order to help advance. So really thank you for sharing that update. And it's great to hear because many of the items that you've all have identified as a CSC in the SERP, there's already some motion on many of these things. And so that's exciting to hear. The status of at least where some of these items are for heavy duty vehicles. We would love SANDAG to come back, and we've already started talking about this, to give a similar presentation, but to really focus on the passenger vehicle side of things. It would have been too much to kind of bring all of that in one conversation, but there's certainly going to be more to come. And there's also exciting efforts and advancements on the passenger vehicle front as well. And so we will continue to coordinate with SANDAG to have them return, maybe next quarter, to focus on the passenger vehicle. And then we can kind of alternate between passenger vehicle and heavy duty vehicles in getting these updates and conversations and all. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it back over to SANDAG for the next item on the agenda. Evan alluded to it. It's relating to one of the things in which they talked about today, but I'll turn it back over to you all.
Great, thank you. So I know Shalem and Lauren sent the letter of support, the draft letter of support. This is a grant opportunity that we started pursuing last Friday, and Shalem was gracious to accommodate our request since we were already presenting. So thank you so much, Shalem, for making the time for us to talk to the CSC. So this is one of the components of the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. As many of you are familiar with the project, it's a mega project that is been 20 years in the making. And as I said in the presentation, we are moving closer to actually start construction, which is very exciting, to provide this new state-of-the-art port of entry for the community and to alleviate some of the burdens that currently the community is experiencing with, pollution and traffic and noise and such. So this particular grant application is specifically to fund the back office of the system that we were talking about that will manage the port of entry, this smart port of entry that has many technologies, and have enhanced security and also some pilot projects to implement like the appointment system for trucks. And many others that we still don't know, and we are trying to, figure out what are those improvements that we can make to make the border crossing more efficient at the port of entry. So that's basically the gist of the request, and we wanted to bring it to the group to see if you guys have any questions or with that, I'll pass it to you. I feel like I have been talking for a long time. Sorry.
No worries, Mariela. Evan or Zach, is there anything else you'd like to share on that? Awesome. And so with that, I put in the chat box the links to the draft letter in both English and Spanish as well. This is something that was sent out earlier today as well. But what SANDAG and I'm not sure if this CSC has done I think we have, but it's been a while since we've done a letter of support for a project. And so if folks are interested in supporting SANDAG, adding to SANDAG's kind of application saying, hey, as a CSC, we've identified this as a priority. We support SANDAG in getting this application. It could be really, really helpful for SANDAG in securing the grant. That's one of the things that when folks are reviewing grant applications they look to see if there's community support on these types of projects, and those end up scoring higher than other projects that do not have that community support. And as mentioned, this is in alignment with SERP strategies as it relates to heavy duty vehicles, and can provide that back end to what Mariela said, that back end infrastructure that's necessary for these kind of these smart components of moving trucks to and from on both sides of the border. So in order to, I want to see if folks have any questions on that, but also share, in order to kind of advance the letter of support, we would need like a motion from a CSC member and then a second, and then we could take a vote. But just want to see if anyone has any questions or comments, and if anyone would like to motion to support.
Hi, I have a question. Are you going to share later all the links to the SDSU survey and the other things you put in the chat? Are you going to share later in an email that you send?
Yes, all the links that we're putting in the chat, we're gonna share in a follow-up email with folks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, any questions on the letter itself or comments? Any motion to support?
You want a motion to support the letter from the community?
Yeah, if there's anybody who'd like to offer a motion to support the letter. Mm-hmm.
I would like to motion to support the letter.
All right, thank you, Jenny. So do we have someone seconding that motion? Who'd like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you, Stan. And then what I'll do is, because I know that we have a mixed group today, I'm just going to call those who are present and to see if folks would like to vote in favor. So we have Jenny who motioned to support the letter and Stan who seconded it. And then I'm just going to do a roll call here for the vote. Alejandro? Alejandro? Might still be having issues with the audio, so I'll come back. Lupe?
Maybe it's me, Guadalupe. Okay. Yeah, I support.
See?
Yes.
All right. Great. Janet? Janet? See if she's still here. Jessica? Or Jessica?
Yes, I'm here. I support.
All right, thank you. Lorena? Lorena? I think some people may have dropped off, so all right, so let's go to Margarita.
Sí, claro. Sí.
Okay. All right, and I see Lorena's vote in the chat box. All right, thank you, Lorena. All right, Mariano? Mariano still here? Okay. Marisela?
Sí, aquí sí doy soporte.
Okay, gracias, Marisela. Great. Mariela from SANDAG.
I'm gonna abstain.
Sounds good. And then Jenny, you made the motion.
I support.
Support. Stan, you made the motion.
Yes.
All right. Trinidad. She's still on.
I support.
Okay, great. Wendy.
Hello. Sí.
Sí, perfecto.
Yo
Gracias.
sí, sí apoyo.
Okay. Apoyo, okay.
Gracias.
Gracias. Perfecto. All right. So the motion passes, and so the CSC officially supports. So what we'll do on our end at APCD, we'll make sure to kind of fill in the blanks of that letter on behalf of the CSC. But wishing SANDAG all the best on their application, and please do let us know. Do you know when you'll be hearing back regarding the application?
That's probably gonna be around spring. So a little ways away, but yeah,
well,
we'll
please
definitely,
do keep us updated.
Yes, we will. Thank
Yeah.
you. We really appreciate the community support.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mariela, and congratulations all on passing this vote. And again, I'll follow up and fill in the blanks on that letter and send that out to you all at SANDAG on behalf of the CSC. And then we'll be sure to update the official CSC letter on the CSC webpage as well, so that we have a record of that in our meeting as well. So thank you, SANDAG, for being here today and sharing that. Looking forward to hearing that update in the spring. So with that, we have about 10 minutes, and I did want to actually turn it back. Since we have a little bit of time, we have time for public comment for things that haven't been, previously discussed on the agenda. But I want to provide a little bit of time for Paula to share a little bit about the study that SDSU is doing, the public health study. She had posted a link earlier in the conversation. But Paula, would you be able to share a little bit about the study maybe how is it different maybe than the study currently being done by public health, or maybe how is it similar as well?
Yeah, thank you. Hope you don't mind if I don't turn my camera on. I'm at home with the kids in the background. So yeah, so thank you for just a few moments. Our survey was funded from the Previs Foundation, and we put this together as sort of a year-long look at health characteristics of community members and also people who work in the community. They don't have to just live there. They can also work there or work and live there. And basically looking at respiratory health symptoms, gastrointestinal, stomach issues, concerns, odors, stress, quality of life, things like, are they awakened at night by odors? If so, how often? Lots of different questions, just really regarding overall health, and then perceptions about how do they feel about their air and water quality? How have things changed over time? And what we're doing is asking people to fill it out once. And then if they would like to continue to participate, we will ask them to just give us their email address or a phone number, and we will text or email them a follow-up survey. Most likely it's going to be about every 2 weeks, just asking people if they've experienced any new symptoms or if they're having no symptoms. We also ask about their kids in their house and other people that are living with them, like parents or extended family. So that's really the basics of our survey. And what we have created is a website where we will update how many people are turning in surveys, and then what are the most reported sort of, so these are all self-reported, right? So it's not necessarily clinically diagnosed, but we do ask if you've been to a doctor and if you did get a diagnosis, of course. But we'll report the most reported health symptoms like respiratory symptoms such as asthma or other things on this dashboard. Once we sort of get the data flowing, I noticed yesterday it kind of got out in the news. We hadn't made an official announcement yet because we've been, well, I guess this is official, but we were waiting until the Casper survey comes out, which is what the county is doing. And the county is partnering with the CDC to launch another survey. This is a door-to-door survey, so it's not online. It's a one-time survey that they're launching. It's actually going to start tomorrow afternoon. Everybody's going through a training tomorrow from 9 to 1 in the afternoon. And then I believe we have about 50 students from San Diego State University School of Public Health, mostly master's students, but some undergrads who have registered to volunteer their time to go out and conduct these surveys door to door. And so they'll be out in force tomorrow, Friday, and possibly on Saturday. I think they've only requested our students on tomorrow and Friday to go out. And this survey that the CDC is doing is called a Casper. It's a community assessment survey that they do with the CDC EPI aid that was requested. And basically, they're going to have several representatives from the CDC come out, give this training, accompany people out into the field. The survey will only be conducted, though, in 30 census tracts and with 7 households randomly selected from each of those census tracts. So about 210 total surveys. Again, 10 to 15 minutes in person, not online. And then the county will work with the CDC to figure out how that data gets released. So this is totally separate from what we're doing. I haven't seen their survey, so I don't actually know what types of questions they will be asking, but I do know that we provided our survey to them, that they were more than able to, or we gave them permission to use any of our questions as well if wanted. So again, that's the county health survey. This, though, will be ongoing again for a year. The reason why we want to keep it going for a year is because we want to see changes in time. So what happens when it starts to rain? What happens if the pumps fail? What happens if the flows get higher again? Because we know right now the flows in the river are lower, and we've seen fewer odor complaints coming in. And so this will hopefully sort of help track things over time, along with river flows and meteorological data, rains, winds, all of those good things. And so again, with the CDC Casper County survey, it's very well distributed across the region. And ours is obviously, it's just, it's based off of how many people take it and where they decide to take it from. We're not really controlling that. It's making sure that it's coming from every place in the community. So our goal is to spread the word, especially into communities where they may not necessarily know about this. And it is in English and Spanish. And as a side note, we're working with our Tijuana counterparts to actually launch a very similar survey in Tijuana as well. And so that would give a really good picture of the whole region as a whole, what some of these self-reported health problems or concerns that they might have. And I guess just the last piece of information about it is this isn't like an epidemiological study. We're not tracking actual, data from people sending in stool samples or, any sort of public or what do we call it, private health information. But it is kind of like what we call hypothesis driven. So we're just asking questions like, where are the communities that are having the most effects from this and how are they feeling it the most? And so it's going to take a little while for the data to be analyzed and come out, but eventually, hopefully we'll be able to have a bigger picture of what's going on. And again, not everybody will get selected for the Casper survey. So this is another opportunity for people who don't get selected for that to also participate in some way of expressing what their health concerns are as well. I'm happy to answer questions about that too.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Do folks have any questions for Paula regarding the health survey that SDSU is doing? So as Paula mentioned, there's two kind of health surveys or studies going on. One is being conducted by County Public Health Department and the CDC, which is launching officially, I believe, like you said, tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon, and they're selecting a little bit over 200 households to do that. So it's you're not self-selecting. Well, you do decide if you're selected, if you want to participate, but they're they're selecting in advance who they're going to engage. And then I believe this survey that Paula's mentioning from SDSU, they're really disseminating it amongst different networks. It's not in person, it's an online survey. So it's a little bit different than what the CDC's and Public County Health is doing. But just want to check and see if folks have any questions on that.
I can just say one question that's come up about getting selected for the CDC survey. It's just to kind of reiterate, it is random selection. So I'm not exactly sure their methodology, but I would assume if we were doing random selection, we would select 7 homes from a particular census tract. And from then, if people don't answer the door, we go to the next randomly selected household. So I don't know that they'll be able to select based off of demographics or like who has kids living in their house or who has older adults living in their house. It should just be random so that it's, a broad general scope of the community. I think that's kind of important to know because a lot of people are like, will they pick me? Will they pick me? And I have no idea. But hopefully, again, if you don't get selected, this is an opportunity to still share that information in another forum.
Yeah, we could definitely share the link out. I'm wondering, Paula, do you all have as well like a flyer or something like that?
Yeah, I put it in the chat. We've got
great.
multiple flyers, but I put the one that we're using right now that has like a QR code.
Okay.
Do you see it?
I
or
see.
do I need
Yep.
do you want me to add it again?
I just pulled it up. Great.
Okay, great. Yeah, and go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's bilingual, and again, you get the option when you click that QR code, it'll take you right to the survey, and you have the option to take it in English or Spanish. So if you go to the website, you can get a little bit more information and click on a link there as well. So either place will get you to the survey.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, we'll be sure to send that around. I know that Jenny is also a principal in that study as well. I don't know, Jenny, if there's anything else you'd like to share in addition to what Paula shared.
No, Paula did a great job, and I wouldn't add to people's time at this hour. They're probably starving. Thank you for the time to present it. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we certainly would love to welcome you all back. Once you have completed the survey and done your analysis to learn more about what you found in the survey as well. We'll be asking Public Health Department as well to do the same thing once they complete their research there as well. So definitely want this to be a space where folks can continue to learn more about the issue so that they can take informed action as well. So thank you, Paula. All right. Awesome, thanks. Just want to double check, we are at 7 o'clock, but if there's any last comments before we head out for the evening. All right. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your time today. We covered a lot of ground today, and also had a few exciting updates along the way as it relates to some of the work that we're doing at the local air district in advancing the dashboard and monitoring. A new monitoring site is online now. As we mentioned, the links that have been shared today, we'll make sure to share that out. And then as soon as that dashboard is launched, we will notify you. We'll send an email letting you know. And if you have questions on how to navigate that dashboard or read that dashboard, please do reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer those questions. And also it'll help inform too, maybe there's modifications and that we need to make it a little bit more accessible and understandable to navigate. So thank you all. Have a great evening. And you'll see a few emails from us in the next few days. Thanks all. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you. Buenas noches.
Thanks. Buenas noches todos.
Gracias, buenas noches.